on a couple of lines of questioning. Just specifically, Mr. Secretary, what is the authority that the administration is using to deploy active duty Marines to California neighborhoods? What authority?
Senator, the president has constitutional authority in order to support.
Cite the provision of the Constitution.
I'd have to pull up the specific provision, but our Office of General Counsel, alongside our leadership, has reviewed and ensured in the order that we set out that it's completely constitutional for the president to use federal troops to defend federal law enforcement.
He mentioned there was historical precedent for using active duty troops in support of law enforcement, but when pressed to give the exact section of law, he admitted he would have to follow up and provide it later. That hesitation sparked unease, because in matters of military deployment on domestic soil, vagueness is never reassuring. The senator drew a sharp contrast by pointing out that in the case of National Guard deployments, the president had explicitly cited Section 12,406 of Title 10 as the legal authority. She wanted the same clarity for the Marines, stressing that history and precedent were not substitutes for proper legal justification. The demand was simple yet powerful. If the administration is going to send federal troops into American communities, the American people deserve to know exactly what law makes it permissible. The absence of that clarity raised concerns about transparency, accountability, and the potential misuse of military force in domestic affairs.
Look, I'd like to know the specific constitutional statutory authority. The president made it clear that he relied on Section 12406 of Title 10 with regard to the National Guard troops. I need to know the authority that he is relying upon in terms of active duty Marines being deployed to California neighborhoods.
Senator,
so you'll follow up with me?
Yes, Senator, but there's plenty of precedent of active duty troops being used to support law enforcement. Historical precedent.
I'm not disputing that. I am just asking you to cite the authority under which the active duty Marines are being deployed to California.
It's in the order, ma'am, but we'll make sure we get it to you as well.
Thank you. I want to dovetail on a couple of other comments also with regard to the lack of specific detail in the budget request for the Department of Defense. I take great pride in Wisconsin's contributions to our national defense, and that includes many Wisconsinites who are hard at work building the Constellation-class frigate. There is no mention of frigate procurement, just like Senator Collins noted that there's no mention of destroyer procurement in the budget materials that you provided to this committee. My state makes the frigate. I'd also note that there's no mention of the destroyers, as I said. So really, we are looking at a very incomplete budget request when we are just 4 months out from the beginning of the next fiscal year. Mr. Secretary, this committee takes the appropriations process seriously. I take the hard work of Wisconsin's shipbuilders seriously, and I'd like your commitment to provide this material to the committee expeditiously so we can do our work.
She pressed the secretary for answers, asking directly if the Department of Defense could provide the missing material so lawmakers could make informed decisions. The secretary attempted to reassure her by saying the administration was making a historic investment in shipbuilding, both for the industrial base and for specific naval platforms. However, he admitted that the frigate program had been plagued with problems, constant design changes, delays, and costly modifications that had derailed the original mission. In some cases, he said, the changes had altered ships so extensively that they no longer met the requirements they were designed to fulfill. His point was that tough choices had to be made, and that not every program could continue to receive funding in the same way it had in the past. But for the senator, those explanations did not address the central problem, a lack of transparency. She argued that Congress cannot approve or reject priorities if the information is incomplete.
Senator, we'll make sure you get all the information, but what I would say is this is a historic investment in shipbuilding, both the defense industrial base and ships. In Wisconsin, and particularly related to the frigate, it's been a program with a lot of problems and a lot of delays and a lot of modifications that have led to serious
Navy
challenges.
has called for many modifications to the plan that has.
I'm not saying that's it's all the fault of the shipyard. There are many ways in which modifications were made that changed an existing design so extensively that it led to a ship that was not even capable of the original mission it was supposed to execute. So our job is to make tough choices on some platforms like that may not be funded the way they were in the past, because we have to make some of those tough choices.
Well, we don't have any of the detail right now of what your plans are with regard to the frigate or the destroyer, and we need that information to do our jobs. Can you get it to me?
We have that information,
expeditiously?
Senator. We have worked in real time in 4 months to reverse a lot of priorities from the previous administration. We have those details and that information, and we will get it to you.
Well, the committee needs those details. So this committee has also worked hard alongside the department to improve recruitment and meet retention goals. The department is planning to separate several thousand service members due to your partisan beliefs about troops who are transgender. Mr. Secretary, I've seen your speeches and social media posts, but what I'm interested in is the sound policy analysis that we would expect from the Secretary of Defense on how this misguided decision will impact military readiness. My colleagues and I have requested this information from you, and we are still waiting to receive it. And so I will ask you now, what assessment did the Department of Defense conduct prior to implementation to evaluate the impact that this policy would have on our national security? Moreover, what is the cost to recruit and train thousands of individuals of comparable experience and skill?
The Secretary responded by saying that recruiting was at historically high levels, insisting that the military was attracting a strong cross-section of Americans from all backgrounds. He went on to argue that the administration agreed with the White House's position that mental health challenges linked to gender dysphoria complicated military service and readiness. Based on that reasoning, the Department of Defense had moved forward with the policy of separating transgender troops, but the senator was not satisfied with general statements or broad references to executive orders. She wanted to see the actual data, the detailed analysis that supposedly informed this decision. Her demand was straightforward. If the department was confident in its reasoning, it should have no problem producing the evidence to back it up. What made this exchange so important was that it revealed the broader stakes involved. Removing thousands of service members is not a small change. It affects unit cohesion, readiness levels, and the overall strength of the force. The U.S. military invests years of training, millions of dollars, and significant resources into building experienced troops. Losing them all at once, for reasons not clearly supported by transparent evidence, creates a major gap that cannot be filled overnight.
Thankfully, recruiting is not an issue. It's at historically high levels, and we're proud of the cross-section of Americans that are joining.
What analysis did you do?
We did extensive analysis, Senator, and we agree with the assessment of the executive order that was issued by the White House that there are mental health issues associated with gender dysphoria that complicate military service and readiness, and as a result, we made the decision.
I have asked for that analysis. Please provide it to me and the committee.
We will provide it.
And then, Mr. Secretary, I think we can all agree that we are at a critical point in our history with respect to global threats that need to counter adversaries like China and Iran. You've gotten a number of questions along those lines. And I'm disappointed that you are instead focusing on a class of ships named for civil rights leaders. You chose Pride Month to direct the Navy to rename a ship named for Navy veteran Harvey Milk. This committee will continue to pursue serious work in the interests of American national security, and I ask you to choose to join us in that endeavor.
Senator, we're not interested in naming ships after activists. That's the stance we're taking.
All right, where we are, due to the